Let's bring in Hugh Johnson, Chairman and Chief Investment Officer of Hugh Johnson Advisors. He's one of the most accurate forecasters on retail sales, making him a Bloomberg best, and he joins us from his office in Albany, New York. Mr. Johnson, welcome back to Bottom Line. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
My pleasure.
December's increase in retail sales, it was the weakest in 7 months. What happened, and was it expected?
Well, I think Heather got to the point or mentioned discounting. I think discounting was certainly a big part of the very weak number. I think the second part of the weak number, if we're talking about December, just December, was the decline in gasoline prices. Those were the two big weak spots in the report. Generally speaking, though, I think what's going on is we're really seeing softness in consumer spending. That's been an ongoing problem for a very long time, largely due to the ongoing process of deleveraging by consumers. Consumer spending is just not what we'd like it to be.
Well, the government's retail sales report is seasonally adjusted, but the numbers aren't adjusted for inflation. Is accelerating midterm inflation, as Philadelphia Fed President Charles Plosser suggested yesterday, something that could stop this recovery in its tracks?
No, because you're talking about starting the rate of inflation is going to get a little bit better. In other words, going to rise a little bit in the second half of 2012. In the first part of 2012, we'll see a little bit of a weakness. In other words, consumer price inflation is likely to get down around the 2 to 2.2% level. And then I think accelerates a strong word. We'll see a pickup and we'll get up to about 3 to 3.4%. It's not going to reach levels that I think are going to threaten consumer spending or be the reason why we'd have weakness in consumer spending. The real reason for the weakness in consumer spending will be obviously household balance sheets and the ongoing process of deleveraging.
Well, 2011 was a record year for U.S. retailers. Sales of $4.7 trillion. 2 straight months, November and December, sales topped $400 billion. The economy was gaining momentum as the year came to a close. Is it sustainable?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that obviously consumer spending is a big part of it, and consumer spending was good or strong in the fourth quarter. Obviously, employment did a lot better in the fourth quarter. 2.5% is about the number I think that you're looking at for consumer spending in the fourth quarter. I think when we look at 2012, we're talking about somewhat of a slowdown from that pace, 2% growth in consumer spending in 2012. It's not going to go off a cliff. We're not talking about a recession, but a little bit of a moderation from the kinds of levels we saw in 2012.
Mr. Johnson, we have about a minute left. This week's Beige Book report by the Federal Reserve showed the last 6 weeks of 2011 were among the best of the year for the U.S. economy. Even though December's retail sales numbers were tepid, do you expect consumer spending to rebound at least somewhat in the coming months? And we should mention that separately, the Labor Department reported more people applied for jobless benefits last week. Is the pace of job growth, although slow, enough to keep consumers spending?
No, the problem is that you're going to have a little bit of a slowdown from the good numbers we saw for employment in the month of December. A lot of that was, as you know, package delivery employers temporarily hiring folks. Those folks have lost their jobs or have been dismissed. That's why you saw the increase in claims. So we're going to see good employment conditions, but they're not going to be as strong as December. Again, December, I think, really didn't tell you the real story. We're going to have a little bit of a moderation in the fourth quarter from the kinds of numbers that we saw in December. They were encouraging, but the next 3 months, I think, are going to be okay, they'll be fine, but they're just not going to be as strong as December. So a slowdown.
Mr. Johnson, can I ask you in about 15 seconds, is December's the holiday season? Is that always an aberration, an anomaly?
No, you get a lot of swings in it, but a lot of those numbers that you see in December, in order to smooth things out, to make comparisons appropriate, are seasonally adjusted.
Hugh Johnson, Chairman and Chief Investment Officer, Hugh Johnson Advisors, one of Bloomberg's most accurate forecasters on retail, a Bloomberg best, joining us from Albany. Mr. Johnson, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.